Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of AstrologyAnswers.com's weekly forecast. My name is Terence. The week begins on Monday, August the 21st, 2023. Big important week because on Wednesday, August the 23rd, communication Mercury, decision-making Mercury, turns retrograde once again, as it does about 3 times a year. Mercury will retrograde in the sign of Virgo until September the 15th. But also on Wednesday the 23rd, the Sun, that goes from sign to sign every 4 weeks, is going also into Virgo. But let's start with Monday, the 21st. The moon that sets the public tone is in sociable, fair-minded, cooperative Libra. It's that moon in Libra is kind of a win-win situation, a sociable situation. However, the moon will go void of course at 1:31 p.m. Pacific time until 4:22 p.m. Pacific time. The moon, when it changes, is changing signs, but no longer making aspects to other planets until it goes into the next sign. That's what we call the void of course. It could be for a couple of minutes. It could be for, an entire day. But the energy, because the moon is no longer aspecting other planets, there's no activity. And so the energy is flat and unproductive, meaning that you don't want to start any important new events, projects, because if you did a chart for the moment you're launching that new event, it would have a void of course moon indicating that the energy is flat and unproductive and probably will not turn out as expected. At 4:22 p.m. Pacific time, the moon will then enter Scorpio. When it's in Libra, it's very sociable in general, but a bit indecisive. When it goes into Scorpio for those next 2.5 days, Scorpio tends to be more private, more introspective, but it's much more all or nothing. There's nothing wishy-washy or indecisive about Scorpio. On Tuesday, with the moon continuing in Scorpio, pleasure-seeking relational Venus will be in a tense aspect with expansive Jupiter, about more like the first half of the day into the early part of the day, Pacific Daylight Time. Now, these are the two great benefic energies. Venus is pleasure and desire. Jupiter is optimism and opportunities. But when they're in tension with each other, there could trigger some overindulgence, a lot of inflated expectations. Now, you probably have a smile on your face as you are eating too much, spending too much, drinking too much, but you could regret it later when you realize you've overindulged. Also, through that whole day that goes with the indulgence is assertive Mars will be in opposition, confrontation to nebulous Neptune. Mars is that warrior athletic planet. It's very driven to achieve its goals. But when it's in opposition to Neptune, now opposition can mean other people, some type of outside circumstances, is influenced by Neptune. Neptune is very nebulous, foggy energies. And so on that day, on Tuesday, a lot of you, as you're trying to strive to achieve your goals, you could get unfocused. And what usually happens with that Mars-Neptune, which happens only once every 2 years, you could feel discouraged. You could feel tired. Sometimes you have to be careful that you are being taken advantage of because Neptune can also represent deception or dishonesty. Now, on Wednesday, the 23rd, communication, decision-making. Mercury goes retrograde once again until September the 15th. When Mercury is retrograde, expect the unexpected. Communications could be ripe with a lot of misunderstandings. You don't want to sign important contracts or make commitments or promises because the conditions could change, and then you would regret that you got locked in to a contract, a promise. You don't want to spend a lot of money traveling. You don't usually want to avoid making important travel plans. But if you have to travel during Mercury in retrograde, it's not going to hurt everybody, obviously, but there's more of a tendencies of delays, of cancellations, or you're just feeling, out of sorts with jet lag, etc. But also as Mercury goes retrograde on Wednesday the 23rd, the Sun leaves 4 weeks of being in outgoing, dynamic, fiery Leo and moves into sensible, practical, grounded Virgo for 4 weeks. Plus the Mercury in retrograde will also be in Virgo. Mercury rules the sign Virgo, so it's very comfortable in Virgo. So it really helps being more sensible. But with Mercury in retrograde, which has a lot to do with misunderstandings in general, Venus, the planet of relationships, is also retrograde from back in July the 22nd, 2023 until September the 3rd. So between September the 23rd, Venus and Mercury are retrograde together until September the 3rd. That could really test relationships where there could be a lot of discussions or confusions about relationships. It can be actually favorable if you stay sensible and grounded, help with all the Virgo energies, to finally talk about your relationship and try to come to some mutual understanding. But if one of you of a relationship's financial, personal, is it's on a different page and you're not communicating, this could really test a relationships, and weak relationships, business and love, could start to fall apart or show where you better start working on it. Plus the moon, the emotional moon, continuing in intense Scorpio, will be in opposition, interacting with others, to unexpected rebellious Uranus. So Wednesday, the 23rd, there's a lot of unexpected change, a lot of miscommunications, a lot of emotional upset. So this too shall pass. Just take a deep breath. Don't make sudden rash decisions, and just, focus on the present. Don't be thinking about the future, because your expectations will probably be different. On Thursday, now the moon is in Sagittarius. When it was in Scorpio, it's more introspective and private. Sagittarius is adventurous, it's friendly, it's outgoing. You'll see the big change. But the moon in fiery, adventurous Sagittarius will be blocked by restricted Saturn mid-morning, maybe up to noon Pacific Daylight Time. That's just an hour or two of feeling emotionally restricted, depressed, frustrated. Again, this too shall pass. And it could be a hangover from Wednesday with all of the big mental changes. But there is good news, as Mars, that was so hurt and unfocused by Neptune on Tuesday, on Thursday, now Mars is in the trinal or best flow of energy to transformational, powerful Pluto. Mars to Pluto can accomplish a tremendous amount of work, really going after your goals, psychologically giving you the courage to keep pushing forwards. Now, because Mercury is just gone retrograde, you don't want to be launching any major new project with that Mars-Pluto, but projects you've been working on prior to Mercury in retrograde, that Mars-Pluto may be your, accomplishing your goals, or really stepping up the drive and motivation. On Friday, the moon, still in friendly, outgoing Sagittarius, will be in tension with the retrograde communication Mercury, mid-afternoon Pacific time. And so misunderstandings will really be ripe, because the moon is also very subjective, personal, emotional energies, but in conflict with a rational, analytical Mercury. But the Mercury is retrograde, so there's a lot of this misunderstandings, a lot of assumptions. So that mid-afternoon Pacific time, for most of you, there could be some real misunderstandings. It's only an hour or two, best for maybe just taking a walk. It's just, reflecting of what is happening, but certainly not reacting. On Saturday, the 26th, now the moon is entering at Capricorn at 6:05 a.m. Pacific time through the weekend. When the moon is in Capricorn, there's more of a general sense, the public tone, to be more practical, more work-oriented, more organized. Sagittarius just wants to be adventurous and playful. Capricorn, we have work to accomplish. It could be a great weekend for home repairs, house cleaning, kind of catching up on work that might have gotten off track because of all the retrogrades. But by mid-afternoon on the Saturday, the sun will be opposite restricted Saturn until the first half of Sunday, once a year. That sun opposite Saturn, authority figures, economic issues, that could be the Saturn, could be blocking you. But because of all the retrogrades, all the changes, all that push of energy, I would think for a lot of you, by Saturday into Sunday, with the sun Saturn, you're feeling like you're hitting a wall, that you're just so tired. And you just want to just take a break. And on Sunday, the first half of the day, with that sun Saturn, and you're feeling all the heaviness of all these responsibilities, that might even cause you to worry too much, which is the Mercury in retrograde. Mercury in retrograde is a tendency to build mountains out of molehills. It's often not as bad as you're imagining it. But assertive athletic Mars had been in Virgo for the last 6 weeks or so, once every 2 years. On Sunday, Mars is moving into sociable, diplomatic Libra until October the 11th. Now, Mars is assertive. Libra, well, the positive of Libra could be favorable for negotiating diplomatic treaties, because there's a lot of discord going on in the world, and there's still a lot of unions that are striking. That Mars can be that drive and push to find win-win situations. That's all on the positive. On the other end of the spectrum, Mars is trying to be assertive, but Libra is a little indecisive. Or the Libra is coming up with all these other possibilities and options. And the Mars just wants to act. And the Libra says, no, let's really look at so many of these options before acting. So it seems like you're indecisive. What you're doing is you're weighing all these options. And then when you make up your mind, you'll be very decisive with the Mars and Libra. But this, with all the retrogrades, especially till September the 15th, you probably are going to not feel that commitment and drive until after September the 15th, because Mars is still in Libra, which will be good for diplomacy, for seeking out win-win situations until October the 11th. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you next week with my next segment. Until then, be safe and well.